Tonight on Rock Center, from the chair the president was sitting in when this photo was taken from this very room. Television cameras are inside the White House Situation Room for the very first time as we look back on the death of Osama bin Laden.
We had been preparing for months. We had seen mock-ups of the compound. We had looked at helicopter flight patterns.
The president said, "It's a go." And we looked at him. He said, "It's a go."
You know, in that situation, you just you do some praying.
What were you watching?
We were able to monitor in real time what was taking place.
The mood was tense.
We could see the helicopters. We could see our guys moving.
When we saw the helicopter spinning, we said, that's not the plane.
We were all holding our breath.
And everyone went like, whoa.
We thought about there was a failure here. It would have disastrous consequences.
When we got the message that they had killed bin Laden, it wasn't over.
The only thing that I was thinking about was, I really want to get those guys back home safe. This was the longest 40 minutes of my life.
Good evening. We are one floor below ground level here in the West Wing of the White House, and we are about to take television news cameras inside the White House Situation Room for the first time in its history. We're here tonight, entering this room, to talk about this photograph taken in this room a year ago and the decisions and the military action that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
USA! USA! USA!
The news came out of nowhere. No one in this country was expecting it, just as no one inside the bin Laden compound was expecting U.S. Navy SEALs to arrive by helicopter. One image from that night has come to symbolize the mission. The photograph taken at the height of the raid by veteran White House photographer Pete Souza. There it is. There you are.
Here I am, sitting right here.
That's an intense look on your face, and everyone is intently watching that screen.
This is, if I'm not mistaken, Pete, this picture was taken right as the helicopter was having some problems. But you may not remember.
I can't say for
sure. That's what it feels like, because I remember Hillary putting her hand over her mouth at that point.
When you look at it,
Yeah.
what does it conjure up inside you?
Well, that's the way I usually look when my husband drags me to an action movie. It was just an extraordinary experience and a great privilege to be part of.
When you see it now, what comes back?
We were all just really concentrating. Our entire focus was on listening to the play-by-play. As you can see, the president's sitting right behind me. I remember turning and looking, and it was just this. No emotion.
What comes to mind first? Is it a sensation? Is it a memory?
It's just tension, more than anything else. It was just tension, and there's no other way to describe it.
The picture was actually years in the making. When he was president, Bill Clinton spent 75 cruise missiles trying to kill bin Laden. Then, after 9/11, President George W. Bush vowed to hunt him down.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
And back when he was a candidate, Barack Obama pledged to step up the mission.
We will kill bin Laden. We will crush al-Qaeda. That has to be our biggest national security priority.
The focus for this administration was on getting bin Laden. That was a piece of unfinished business that went to the honor as well as the security of our country.
Leon Panetta was CIA director back in the summer of 2010 when the first big break materialized. The CIA tracked a man believed to be bin Laden's courier to a walled-off compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Satellites parked above the compound revealed another figure, a tall man taking walks in the courtyard. Analysts gave him a nickname, the Pacer, but the imagery was never good enough to know for sure if it was bin Laden.
Ultimately, it was a 50-50 proposition as to whether this was actually bin Laden.
And still, it was the best intelligence breakthrough since the U.S. came close to bin Laden but lost him in Tora Bora back in 2001.
When the intel community began to pick up information and when they began to get a more of a sense that maybe there was something there, at first it was only within the White House. I was brought in January, and then we began these intensive meetings.
A series of top-secret meetings started up inside the Situation Room, the sit room as it's known in White House parlance. At one of those meetings last year, Admiral William McRaven, the head of Joint Special Operations Command, outlined a possible raid on the suspected bin Laden compound.
I had 100% faith in the Navy SEALs themselves. Bill McRaven, the head of Special Forces, had worked with us for months to think through every possible scenario. He's a guy who inspires a lot of confidence, and he's a no-nonsense guy.
I remember the moment in the sit room, someone said, well, this sounds really dangerous that we're going to expose our guys, and what do we know is going to happen? And he said, well, with all due respect, we've done this hundreds of times.
The planning picked up speed, and by April 21st of last year, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time, Admiral Mike Mullen, attended a dress rehearsal with a team of Navy SEALs at a mock compound they'd set up in the Nevada desert.
I met that night every single member, the night of the rehearsal, every single member that was on that mission, and I got to look each of them in the eye. They showed me in their execution of rehearsal and also in that steely-eyed glare that they give you that they were ready to go.
Did they suspect anything when the chairman of the Joint Chiefs came to watch them practice and drill?
I never asked that question. I certainly suspect that they did.
When did they learn exactly what their mission was and who their target was?
Actually, you'd have to ask Bill McRaven that. But they're not idiots. I mean, they knew certainly how critical this was. They knew who they were and who they were working with.
1 week after the rehearsal, the launch window opened up. A favorable forecast and a moonless night essential for an attack by air. They knew it could be months before the next opportunity. On Thursday, April 28th, the president gathered the small core of planners in the Situation Room to debate the choices one last time. You had a couple options. Do nothing, an air raid with no evidence of after action, no proof of death, or this. You were against this mission as they launched it, correct?
Well, as I pointed out early on, there was no consensus. The president got us all down in the Situation Room, and he said, okay, basically roll call.
What was your vote?
My recommendation was to go forward.
And why would you recommend that over others in the group?
I felt the risk was manageable. The evidence to me was compelling enough to take the risk. I thought that we could get him in and get him out no matter what happened, whether he was there or not.
Secretary of Defense Robert Gates recommended an airstrike with no forces inserted on the ground. CIA Director Panetta supported a raid by Special Forces. So did Secretary of State Clinton. Vice President Biden wanted to wait on further proof that bin Laden was indeed there. How contentious did it get among members of your team? There was not consensus.
It was never contentious because I think everybody understood both the pros and the cons of action. There were doubts that were voiced inside the Situation Room, but they weren't doubts that were going through my own head. People who were advocating action understood that if this did not work, if we proved to be wrong, there would be severe geopolitical consequences, and obviously, most importantly, we might be putting our brave Navy SEALs in danger.
At the meeting, the president did not indicate which way he was leaning.
As we're walking out, and we walked up together as we walked out of the room, he said, it's time to make a decision. I know it sounds trite. The president's all alone. All alone.
The president said he'd have an answer for the team in the morning. He walked back to the residence portion of the White House, had dinner with his family, and then went to his study after they went to bed. How does one spend that night knowing that decision is due in the morning?
Well, there is no doubt that you don't sleep as much that evening as you do on a normal night. I stayed up late and I woke up early. By that point, though, I felt as if I had examined every aspect of the operation. We had been preparing for months now. At that point, you have some serenity in knowing that you've made the best possible decision that you can. And, in that situation, you do some praying.
In a moment, the president reaches a decision and then is forced to give the appearance of business as usual.
The correspondence dinner was a different story. That was a little bit of acting going on there because my mind was elsewhere.